Hello, and welcome to another edition of Sports Center. Our lead story tonight is about the 2014 AFC Championship game called Deflategate. The New England Patriots tampered with 11 out of 12 footballs before the game versus the Indianapolis Colts on January 18, 2015. The Colts equipment manager examined two footballs that were intercepted by safety Mike Adams. He said that they were tampered with and they seemed spongy or soft when squeezed. It was then announced on May 11, 2015 that the NFL would suspend Patriots quarterback Tom Brady for 4 games at the beginning of the 2015 regular season. More recently, the suspension was overturned by a federal judge. So tonight on SportsCenter, we look at the question, does any of this even matter? Just how much does the pressure of football affect the performance of a quarterback? We now go to Joseph Alejandro.
Thank you, Nathan. So here's an overview of the way we approach this investigation. Our scientists here at the Loyola Sports Science Laboratory collaborated on this overall question, does the pressure of a football affect the performance of a quarterback? To be able to experiment scientifically, we designed an overall hypothesis. If we decrease the pressure of a football, then the quarterback's performance will increase. To measure performance, we set up a series of different experiments that looked at the accuracy and maximum distance a quarterback could throw. We had a separate experiment that was about perception. We designed this additional experiment, because Tom Brady said he couldn't tell the difference between a normal inflated and an underinflated football. And we thought this was worthy of an examination as well. Our independent variable was the same for all experiments, pressure. This provided our experimental group and control groups for our experiments. The experimental group in all of our trials was always the low pressure footballs, and our control group for comparison always was performance with the normal pressure footballs. So let's see what our scientists discovered. We now go to Ibrahim in the Loyola Sports Science Center.
Thank you, Joseph. Now let's show you what we found out about the effect of pressure on accuracy. In this experiment, we randomly selected 4 quarterbacks and tested how accurate they were with an underinflated ball compared to a normally inflated ball. Each quarterback made 6 throws with each ball, and we measured how many times they hit the targets. Surprisingly, our data showed us quarterbacks are approximately 10% more accurate with a normally inflated ball. Therefore, our data suggests there's no advantage to Tom Brady's accuracy. Now we go on to Aaron, who's going to tell us about the reception experiment.
Thank you, Abraham. What we did in this laboratory was examine the effect of football pressure on reception rate. What we tried to find out was if a low-pressure football would give the receivers an advantage catching the throws from the quarterback. For this experiment, we only used one quarterback to limit the number of variables. The quarterback made 8 throws to each of the 4 different receivers. 4 passes with the normal pressure footballs and 4 passes with the low pressure footballs, for a sample size of 32 throws in total. We recorded the number of passes caught for each pressure and calculated the average percent caught for each group. Our comparison showed that the low pressure footballs gave the quarterback and receivers a 25% advantage in completed passes. For the record, that difference was between 11 out of 16 balls caught for the low pressure group versus 7 out of the 16 balls caught for the normal pressure group. This data supports our lab's hypothesis that low pressure footballs give the quarterback a competitive advantage. Now to Charlie Ortega with the investigation on pressure on distance.
Thank you, Aaron. In this part of our investigation, we saw quarterbacks throwing with a low pressure football would improve the distance that the quarterbacks could throw. This was our third way to evaluate performance and answer the question, does low pressure affect the football's distance thrown? Our independent variable for this experiment was the pressure of the football, and our dependent variable was distance thrown. We used 6 quarterbacks who each threw 4 throws each. They threw 2 normal pressure footballs and 2 low pressure footballs. We measured the quarterback's throws in meters, then we averaged the results by pressure. Our analysis shows that an average quarterback could throw the low pressure ball 5% farther. This data supports our hypothesis that Tom Brady may have had an advantage at the AFC Championship game because he might have been able to throw farther to receivers downfield. Now let's go to Robert Robles and see what his laboratory has to offer. Robert.
Thank you, Charlie. Now we're going to talk about the issue of whether Tom Brady should have known if he was using an underinflated football. To test this, we had an experiment on the ability to accurately perceive the pressure of a football. Our question for this experiment was, can the average person tell the difference between a normal pressure football and a low pressure football? This experiment had 7 quarterbacks receive a ball hiked to them. Low pressure and normal pressure footballs were provided in a random pattern. Then they had 3 seconds to announce to one of our scientists whether it was a normal pressure football or a low pressure football. After the experiment, we recorded the number of correct guesses and the number of wrong guesses. We then calculated the percentage of each, compared the amount of each correct and the amount of wrong guesses. Our data showed that 90% of middle school scholars guesses could correctly identify a football that was 2 psi below normal pressure. So this means that, in our opinion, Tom Brady should have known that he was using a low pressure football. Now we're going to summarize what our 4 lads found.
Thank you, Robert. So, what does all this mean? Let me see if I can summarize the results from our 4 experiments. Well, in our first performance experiment of accuracy, we actually didn't get the results that we expected because normal pressure footballs were more accurate by 10%. This means that lower pressure footballs may have made Tom Brady less accurate. Then in our second experiment, which is reception rate, low pressure footballs were caught 25% more than normal pressure footballs. This will give the Patriots receivers a significant advantage over the Colts. In our last performance experiment, which is distance, low pressure was thrown farther by 5%, meaning that Tom Brady may have been able to extend his range and hit receivers farther downfield. Now moving on to our reception experiment, our results were that low pressure was correctly identified 90.4% of the time by the average person. This means that Tom Brady was most likely lying that he doesn't know the difference between low and normal pressure footballs. Overall, we think that low pressure footballs were better to perform with because the QBs performed better in 2 out of 3 experiments. Of course, there are sources of error in every experiment that limits what you can say for sure. One of our sources of error was that the temperature wasn't the same as the game time. If we wanted to investigate this further, we could do another experiment unfreezing the QB's hands or the football. Another source of error is that our middle school scientists were not professional football players, so we could ask high school or college football players to do the experiment with us next time to get more reliable data that might better represent how an adult professional might perform. That does it for tonight's lead story. Back to you, Nathan.